Welcome to my channel. Let me ask you something. Do you still translate every word from your language into English in your head? Be honest. Most people do it, especially in the beginning. You want to say something in English, but first you think in your language. Then you try to find the English words. And then you feel slow. You feel stuck. You lose confidence. But what if I told you this one habit, translating in your head, is the reason your English is not getting better? Yes, really. You can go to class, you can do your homework, you can watch English movies every night. But if you still think in your native language, you will always be one step behind. Today, I will tell you why you must start thinking in English, and how this small change can help you speak faster, feel more confident, and become more fluent, even if you are a beginner. I will give you real examples, science, tips, and easy things you can do today to start. So don't go anywhere. Stay with me till the end, because this one idea can change everything. Chapter 1. Why thinking in English is so powerful. We start with a simple question. Why should I think in English at all? You might say, I want to speak better, or I want to write well. And that's great. But what comes before speaking or writing? Thinking. Every sentence you say starts as a thought in your mind. If that thought is not in English, then the rest becomes much harder. Many of my students don't realize this at first. They go to English class, they do the exercises, they watch movies, but still, they feel slow when they speak. They know the words. They understand the grammar. But when it's time to talk, they stop. They freeze. Why? Because their brain is still working in their first language. I see it clearly. A student knows the answer. They want to speak. But before they do, they quickly translate from their own language. And that's when the problems start. They forget the grammar. They forget the word. Sometimes they even say the wrong thing, and then they feel embarrassed. All of this happens before the first word comes out. Now imagine a different way. Imagine if your thought, your first idea, was already in English. No translation, no delay, just thought to speech. Your sentence would come out faster. It would sound more natural. You wouldn't need to build it word by word. It would just flow, like water. That's the real power of thinking in English. It's not just about being fast. It's about being confident. When you think in English, you are not asking yourself, is this correct in my language? You are not searching for the English word. You are simply thinking and saying what you feel, just like a native speaker. Now, some people will say, but I'm not a native speaker. My brain can't work like that. I don't believe that. I've taught English for more than 25 years. I've taught young children, teenagers, adults, and even people over 70 years old. And I've seen that anyone can learn to think in English. Your brain is smarter than you think. You just have to train it, step by step. You see, this isn't magic. This is how the brain learns languages. Look at babies. Babies don't study grammar. Babies don't translate. But by age 3 or 4, they already speak in full sentences. They make mistakes, yes, but they speak naturally. Why? Because they think in the language they hear. And that's the secret. The more you think in English, the more your brain learns to use English naturally. You might be thinking, but I'm not a baby. I'm an adult. My brain is different. That's true. Adults learn differently, but not worse, just different. Adults understand rules. Adults have logic. But the truth is, even adults learn language better when they stop translating and start thinking in the target language. Thinking in English is not something that happens overnight. It's a habit, a skill. You start with small steps, just a word or a short sentence. I'm hungry. Where is my phone? It's a nice day. Simple thoughts. You say them in your head, again and again. Day by day, your brain learns. And then something beautiful happens. One day, you wake up, and your first thought is in English. Not because you forced it, but because your brain got used to it. That's when you know. You're not just learning English, you're living it. In the next chapter, I'll show you why translating is your biggest enemy, and how it quietly stops you from getting better. We'll also look at what to do instead. But remember this, thinking in English is one of the strongest things you can do to improve your fluency, and you can start right now, today, with just one thought. Chapter 2. How translating slows you down now. Let's look at what happens when you don't think in English. Most beginners do this without even noticing. They hear something in English. Then they quickly translate it into their own language. They think of their answer. Then they translate their answer back into English. It feels safe. It feels like control. But actually, it's very slow and very dangerous for your progress. Let me give you a simple example. You want to say, I'm hungry. But in your head, you first think in your native language, maybe Hindi, Spanish, Arabic, Chinese, any language. Then you look for the English words. You try to remember, I am hungry. You say it slowly. Maybe the grammar is wrong. Maybe your pronunciation sounds strange. You feel unsure. The person in front of you is waiting. You start to panic, and then you say less, or stop speaking completely. This is the problem with translating. It's not just slow. It's stressful. It takes your attention away from the real conversation. You are not focused on the message. You are focused on the words. You are not thinking about what the other person is saying. You are busy inside your head. That's why translating makes speaking harder, not easier. I like to compare it to walking through a crowded room with your eyes closed. Imagine that. You take one step and bump into something. You turn a little and hit something else. You keep moving, but you feel lost. You don't know where you are going. That's how it feels when you speak English by translating in your head. But now imagine this. You open your eyes. You can see everything clearly. You can walk around people. You can find the door. You feel calm. You feel in control. That's what happens when you stop translating and start thinking in English, even with just a few simple words. The room becomes clear. Your brain can focus. You feel more confident. Let me tell you about one of my students. Her name is Amina. When she joined my class, she always translated. I could see it in her eyes. Every time I asked a question, she would pause. Her eyes would go up and to the side. She was thinking in her language, then trying to build a sentence in English. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but it was always slow, and she always looked nervous. So I gave her a small task. I said, "Every morning when you wake up, say 5 simple sentences in English, in your head. Things like, 'It's morning. I feel sleepy. Today is Friday. I will eat breakfast.'" Nothing difficult, but it had to be in English, not out loud, not on paper, just in her mind. After 2 weeks, I noticed a change. She started answering faster. She smiled more in class. She still made mistakes, but she didn't freeze anymore. She was thinking in English, and the words came quicker. After 1 month, she told me, "Now I don't have to translate everything. Sometimes I just speak." That's the power of small steps. You don't need to stop translating all at once, but you can start building a new habit, a better habit, a faster habit, and you can do it even if you are just starting. Let me give you some simple techniques. First, use English labels for things in your room. Put a note on your door, door. On your phone, phone. On your desk, desk. Look at them every day. Say the word in your mind, in English. Second, start with simple thoughts. When you're walking, think, "It's sunny. I like this music. There's a dog." You don't need full sentences at first. You just need words, in English, in your head. Third, use your phone. Change the language to English. When you open an app, your brain will see English first. This trains your brain to get comfortable with English in daily life, not just in class. Fourth, try this game. Pick one activity, like cooking or cleaning, and for 10 minutes, only think in English while you do it. Say what you're doing in your head. I open the fridge. I take out the eggs. I boil the water. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to try. These small things sound simple, and they are, but they work. I've seen them work again and again with students of all ages and all levels. Translating feels like the safe way, but it keeps you stuck. It keeps you slow. Thinking in English may feel strange at first, but with practice, it becomes natural. And when that happens, everything becomes easier. Speaking, writing, listening, even grammar. In the next chapter, I'll show you how to start thinking in English, step by step. And I'll show you how to train your brain the same way you train your body, with easy, daily exercises. Chapter 3. The Science Behind It. How the Brain Learns Languages. Let's get a bit deeper now. Why does thinking in English work so well? The answer is simple, but powerful. It's all about your brain. Your brain has 2 main ways of learning a language. One is called declarative learning. This is where you memorize grammar rules, vocabulary lists, and things like that. It's slow and requires a lot of effort. You have to think hard about each rule, and it's easy to forget. If you've ever studied English this way, you know it can feel like pushing a heavy rock up a hill. The other way is called procedural learning. This is the kind of learning that happens when you do something automatically, like riding a bike, driving a car, or speaking your first language. You don't think about the rules. You just do it. It's fast, automatic, and much more powerful. And here's the cool part. Thinking in English taps into this procedural system. When you start thinking in English, your brain begins to use the language the same way it uses your first language, as a skill, not as something you have to memorize. And that's exactly what you want. You don't want to just know English in your head, like a list of facts. You want to use it. You want to speak, think, and understand English the way you use your native language, without hesitation, without thinking about grammar rules, and without translating everything. But how does your brain actually learn like this? When you think in English, your brain starts to build new neural connections, paths in your brain that make English more automatic. Just like muscle memory, the more you use English, the easier and faster it becomes to use it. Your brain learns through practice, not through memorization. Let me tell you something interesting about how babies learn language. Did you know that babies don't learn grammar rules like we do? They don't sit down and memorize verbs or sentence structures. They just listen. They hear mama or dada over and over. They hear people talking and start mimicking the sounds. Eventually, they start speaking. It's all about listening and repeating, no translating. And guess what? Babies speak perfectly. They don't need to translate from their first language to learn their second language because their brains just pick it up through immersion. And your brain works the same way. You don't need to memorize every rule. You don't need to translate every sentence. You need to immerse yourself in English, to hear it, see it, and most importantly, to think in it. This is exactly why thinking in English works so well. It's not just about memorizing words or grammar. It's about using the language naturally, like a skill you practice every day. The more you think in English, the more your brain becomes comfortable with it, and the easier it gets to speak and understand. So, how can you train your brain the same way babies learn language? Here are some easy daily habits you can start right away. 1. Immerse yourself in English as much as possible. Listen to English podcasts, watch English TV shows or YouTube videos, and read in English. This is like feeding your brain with the language. 2. Repeat what you hear. When you hear a sentence in English, repeat it in your mind or out loud. This builds those neural connections in your brain. 3. Think in English during daily activities. Like I mentioned in Chapter 2, when you are doing simple things, like brushing your teeth or making coffee, try to describe them in English in your head. Start small and simple, then add more detail as you become more comfortable. 4. Practice every day. Even just 10 minutes of thinking or speaking in English every day will make a huge difference. It's like going to the gym for your brain. Little by little, your brain will learn to use English automatically. Research also shows that when you practice regularly, your brain will start to recognize patterns in the language. These patterns, like how sentences are structured or when to use certain words, become easier for your brain to identify. You'll start to feel the language rather than thinking about the rules. So why is thinking in English so powerful? Because it makes your brain work the way it was designed to work, naturally, automatically, and without hesitation. And the more you practice, the faster and more confident you will become. In the next chapter, we'll talk about some fun exercises you can do to help train your brain and make thinking in English even easier. Chapter 4. How to Start Thinking in English, Even as a Beginner. Now it's time to take action. You might be thinking, but how do I actually do it? I don't know many words. I don't know grammar. That's okay. The good news is, you don't need to know a lot of words or have perfect grammar to start thinking in English. You can begin with just a few words and build from there. The key is to start small. You don't need to form long, complicated sentences. You don't need to worry about making mistakes. You just need to start. In this chapter, I'll give you simple, easy activities to train your brain to think in English. These are things you can do every day, even if you're a complete beginner. Here are some simple activities to start with. 1. Talk to yourself in English. Yes, you heard me right. This might feel a bit strange at first, but talking to yourself in English is one of the best ways to get your brain used to the language. It could be as simple as saying things like, I need to clean the kitchen, or I'm going to the store. These short, simple thoughts in English are a great starting point. 2. Name the objects in your room. Look around you. Name the objects you see in English. Chair, table, book, lamp. It's a simple but powerful exercise that helps your brain start connecting English words to real objects. 3. Make small sentences about your day. This can be about anything you did today or what you are planning to do. It doesn't have to be perfect. Start with basic sentences like, Oh, I eat breakfast. Oh, I go to work. Oh, I feel happy. You're practicing simple sentence structures and starting to use English in a natural way. The key here is consistency. You don't need to speak perfect English. Just speak English. Try to make it a habit. Every time you think something, try to think it in English. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel. Even if you only know 100 words in English, that's enough to get started. You can describe your day, talk about your feelings, and ask simple questions. Every word you know is a building block. And remember, you don't have to use complex grammar. Start with what you know and build from there. Let's also look at something cool that polyglots, people who speak many languages, do. They don't wait until they know a language perfectly before using it. They start using it right away. Polyglots know that practice is the key. So, what do? They talk to themselves in the new language. They think in simple sentences. They repeat words and phrases they've learned. This is the same process you can follow. Polyglots don't worry about being perfect. They focus on using the language. One word, one sentence, one thought at a time. And before long, it becomes automatic. You'll start to notice that thinking in English is happening without you even trying. As you practice more, you'll need fewer translations. You'll think in English more naturally, just like you do in your first language. So, here's the action plan. 1. Start with simple sentences about your day. 2. Name objects around you in English. 3. Think simple thoughts in English. 4. Use English as much as possible, even if it's just 10 minutes a day. Remember, small steps lead to big changes. The more you practice, the easier it becomes. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to stay motivated as you build your English skills. I'll share tips for overcoming challenges and making English a natural part of your life. Chapter 5. Common mistakes learners make when trying to think in English. Now that you've started thinking in English, let's talk about some of the things that can go wrong. Because yes, there are some common mistakes that many learners make, and I want to help you avoid them. The biggest mistake? Trying to speak perfectly from the very beginning. Here's the truth. Perfection is not the goal. Your goal is to practice, not to speak like a native speaker right away. It's normal to make mistakes. Everyone does, even native speakers. If you focus too much on speaking perfectly, you'll get frustrated and might even give up. But if you embrace mistakes as part of the learning process, you'll improve much faster. Another common mistake is getting frustrated when you can't find the right word. I've seen this happen with many students. They'll be thinking in English, but then suddenly stop because they can't remember the word they need. Maybe they'll switch back to their first language or just freeze up. But here's the thing. Don't stop, just keep going. Even if you have to use a simpler word or phrase, keep speaking. If you get stuck, don't panic. Keep practicing, and the words will come more easily over time. A third mistake is trying to think in long, complicated sentences too soon. Many learners think they need to speak in long, perfect sentences from day one. But this is actually counterproductive. Your brain can't process complex sentences if you're still building your foundation. It's better to start small, think in simple sentences, and build from there. For example, I want food. I like movies. I work today. These are short, simple, and effective. In this chapter, I'm going to show you how to avoid these mistakes and keep going, even when it feels hard. We'll talk about how to enjoy the process of learning, how to be patient with yourself, and how to make thinking in English feel as natural as brushing your teeth. You see, thinking in English doesn't need to be stressful. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to practice every day. The more you do it, the easier it gets. In fact, it can become automatic over time, like any other habit. Here are some simple tips to avoid mistakes and stay on track. 1. Focus on practice, not perfection. It's okay to make mistakes. In fact, you should embrace them because that's how you learn. Don't let the fear of making a mistake stop you from speaking. 2. Start with easy sentences. Don't try to think in long, complicated sentences right away. Begin with simple thoughts and build gradually. As you get more comfortable, you can add complexity, but start small. 3. Keep speaking, even when you're stuck. If you forget a word, use a synonym or describe it in another way. For example, instead of stopping and saying, I don't know the word for this, you could say, it's something you use to cook food, or it's like a small plate but bigger. Just keep going. 4. Be patient with yourself. Learning takes time. It's okay if it feels difficult at first. The more you practice, the better you will get. 5. Make it a daily habit. Try to think in English every day, even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes. Consistency is key. The more you practice, the more natural it will feel. The most important thing is to enjoy the process. Learning a language is a journey, and every small step is progress. Don't rush. There's no pressure. Just build your confidence slowly and steadily. Remember, thinking in English is like building a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Soon, it will feel like second nature, just like speaking your first language. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how to stay motivated on your English learning journey and keep up the habit, even when you face challenges. Chapter 6. Real Stories. How thinking in English changed my students' lives. Let's wrap up with some real stories. Stories of students just like you, who made the shift to thinking in English and saw their lives change as a result. I've been teaching English for more than 25 years, and in that time, I've had the privilege of working with students from more than 30 countries. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. The students who learn the fastest are not always the smartest. They're not the ones who know all the grammar rules or have the biggest vocabulary. They are the ones who think in English. Let me tell you about one of my students from Brazil. When he first came to my class, he translated every single sentence in his head. As a result, he couldn't speak fluently. It was slow, awkward, and frustrating for him. But after just 3 months of daily thinking practice, simple things like naming objects around him in English and practicing thinking silently in English, something amazing happened. One day, he told me, I started dreaming in English. Yes, dreaming in English. That was the moment everything clicked. His fluency improved dramatically, and he began speaking more confidently. His progress was incredible, and it all started with the habit of thinking in English. I also want to share the story of a student from Japan. She was so shy that she struggled to speak in class, and she told me she was too afraid to speak to anyone in English. But after just 2 months of using what I call mind voice, thinking silently in English throughout the day, her confidence grew. She started speaking more in class, and eventually, she was speaking to clients in English every single day. The change was amazing. She no longer feared making mistakes. She felt confident in her ability to communicate, even if her grammar wasn't perfect. Now, these are not magic stories. These are real people with real challenges, just like you. And they all share one thing in common. They learn to think in English. In this final chapter, I want you to feel inspired. I want you to know that you can do this too. You don't need perfect grammar. You don't need a massive vocabulary. You don't need to be a language genius. What you need is just one thing, a new habit of thinking in English. This habit is what changes everything. And the best part? It starts today, right now. Every day, you have the chance to practice thinking in English. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner or if you've been learning for years. The important thing is that you start now. The more you do it, the more natural it will become. So, I want to leave you with this. You are capable. Like my students from Brazil and Japan, you can overcome the challenges. It won't be easy at first, but with consistent practice, you'll see improvement. And in time, thinking in English will become second nature, just like breathing. You're not alone in this journey, and if these students can do it, so can you. If you enjoyed this video and you want to keep improving your English with simple and powerful ideas, subscribe to my channel, like this video, and leave a comment below. I will start thinking in English today. I read every comment, and I'll reply to as many as I can. Let's grow together, one thought at a time. Thanks for watching.